Hey everybody, welcome to Drive Thru Review 173. Today I'm going to talk about Rolling Freight. This is a game from Ape Games. I believe it was released last year in 2012. It is a dice train game, so it kind of combines like Steam and dice, which is a really odd combination. This is a game that I'm having a hard time trying to make up my mind about, as you know, how much I liked it or didn't like it, and kind of how I felt about the game in general and how it worked. So I've had a chance to play it a couple of times. The first time we played it, we kind of played a couple of minor details. At least they seemed like minor details. But if you play this thing wrong, it's kind of going to throw the game out of balance. I'll just kind of make note of that when I talk about the walkthrough. So let me just jump into the walkthrough and show you a little bit about how the game plays, and then I'll come back and tell you more about what I think about it. Okay, so I've got the game set up here. I've got some different goods laid out here. Some of these are random. Some of these are fixed based on the different towns that they're in. You've got a row of contract cards up there, and then you've got a row of improvement cards here. So what players are trying to do is they're going to try to basically lay track in their color here. So we see we've got a purple track. You're trying to claim the different routes there. And then you want to try to ship goods from one town to the next to get points. You're going to get points for laying the track, points for shipping the goods. So I will make a quick sort of comment here. This board does look very busy, and I'm pretty positive that on the video it's going to look even busier than it does in real life. It's not really that bad, you know, in person, but it is busy. I wish they would have maybe done some more contrasting colors or something along those lines. But it's kind of a minor complaint. But you know, if you take a look at these cards, these are very, very small cards there. So I've got to get it, you know, really close. I don't even know if that will focus. But these cards for the improvements and the contracts are tiny. But again, they save space, and so you're not, you know, cluttering up, and they're able to keep, you know, a lot of the information on the board here. So you've got your delivery point bonuses here in the middle there. I'll show that a little bit more detail in a second. There's some bonuses there for completing the contracts and completing the links. So as I said earlier, this is a dice game. Each player is going to get a handful of dice in their color. There's got different, you know, colored sides on there. Some of these are going to have two colors there. You can see that one there. It's got yellow and red on that side. You're going to be rolling dice every turn, at the end of your turn actually, so that you can plan for later. You're going to roll the dice, and you're able to take actions kind of based on the dice that you roll. You're also going to get some improvements here that are going to allow you some flexibility, give you some bonus dice here to add to your supply of dice that'll give you little bonus actions, or there'll be better dice like this black one here. You know, this one has faces on it that show all four of the possible colors. And the improvements will do other things as well, not just, you know, give you dice, but give you little sort of special powers and things. So to start the game, players are going to draft one of the contracts and then be able to draft one of the improvements and put it on their player board. Each player is going to have a personal board here. You can see you have space for 3 contracts and 3 improvements. You also get a locomotive in your color. It's going to start down here at 0, and then this is going to mark your switching stations. We'll explain what they do in a minute, but basically you're going to spend dice here. You can see it costs 3 dice to move up. You know, the first couple of spaces, and then 4 and 5 and 6. So you're going to want to move that up. It's going to help you deliver goods. So the first thing we're going to look at are these contract cards. And I'm just going to jump into all the different types of actions you can do on your turn. One thing that you're going to do a lot of here is grab these contracts. So you can see I've got a large deck of cards there, and it's not going to be that big when you play the game, because depending on the map that you choose, and I should say this game comes with 2 maps. I've got sort of the California West Coast map here. There's a sort of a southeast United States map on the other side, and then there's a couple other maps I believe that are available. So depending on the map, you're going to get instructions to pull out certain cards based on the map, and then you're going to lay these out here. And so you see you've got a little bit of a market here. So to take a contract, you're going to have to spend a die or multiple dice. So the bottom one here is going to be a little bit cheaper, and this is going to tell you I can spend 1 generic dice. That means no matter what I rolled on the face, I can use that dice there. And then you can see this little colored dice here. This means you need to also spend a dice matching that color there. So I need to spend, you know, maybe that one, the yellow one, doesn't really matter. And then I need to spend another one here that matches this, so gray. So I could spend, you know, 2 dice. One of them has to be gray, and I can grab that contract card. And then again, the value kind of goes up here. So, you know, this is 1 dice matching that. So I need 1 red dice and then 2 of anything else, and so on up the line there. Now what the contracts are telling you is where they're located on the board. So you can see basically I've got 2A gray, 1A red, 3A blue, and 4A yellow. So if we look on the board here, we've got these various sort of links and routes here that you're going to try to get. So you see I've got an 11B yellow here, which isn't out yet. So we're gonna, the game gives you these little markers here. So if we look at this marker here, you can see we've got the 2A gray there. So the nice thing that the game gives you is there's 4 of these markers, and then you're just going to look when these get replenished. You're going to find the new ones, and then you can put the little markers there so you can instantly kind of see where the contracts actually are physically on the board there. So again, the first action you may do there is you're going to buy the contract with some dice. Maybe I'll grab the 2A here. I'm going to put this on my player board, and then I'm going to take this marker off here. I'm just going to set it there for now. And then players, when you get the contract like that, you're going to put 1 cube in this link here. So the idea is that you want to fill up all of these spaces with cubes, which you can do another action to do. I'll explain in a second. You fill that up. Once you fill it up, then you're going to place a rail in your color. It kind of means you own that route there. So the thing that we played wrong in our first game is that we were refilling this contract card, market here and moving these down. So as you buy these ones will move down and then you get refilled. You don't actually do that until the end of your turn. So that actually it seems like a minor detail, and a lot of games are like that. When you have sort of a display market here, you buy it and then you refill it as soon as you buy it. You don't do that in this game, and you also don't do it with the improvement cards over there, which I'll talk about in a second. But that's very key. Don't mess that up, because it's going to make the game, it'll throw the game balance off quite a bit if you screw that up. So just a little note there. So the next action you can do is you can kind of construct a link here, and this is how you're going to add cubes there. So if I rolled some dice here, let's say I rolled these 3 dice here. Now the dice color has to actually match the color of the route there. So I need gray faces here. And I should say here, so you see this one's got gray or blue, so you can use that for either color. So I could spend these 3 dice to fill in 3 cubes like that. So I can spend these 3 like that and then fill it in. And then again, once you fill this in, you're going to take the cubes off. You're going to replace it with a track link of your color. The size doesn't really matter. It's just, they've got different sizes for different sizes out there. It's just to color it up for you and mark it as yours. You're going to fill that in and you're going to score some points. So in the center of the board here, it's going to tell you how many points you're going to score. And that's going to depend on how many contracts you're working on. So again, if you look at your player board, remember you've got 3 spaces for contracts. So if you're only working on one contract and focusing on that, then it's a little bit more difficult, because again, you're kind of dictated by the dice that you roll. But if you focus on one, you're going to get more points. Where if you had kind of like 3 in progress here, you're going to get less points. So here, let's say we were working on just one contract and we finished a rail that was 5 spaces long, we'd get 6 points. Or if we were working on 3 different ones and we finished a rail that was 5 spaces long, you'd only get 3 points. So one thing that I've seen, and this is not 100% true all the time, but it seems like most of the time we focus on just doing one contract at a time. Now that could just be a little bit of sort of groupthink and metagame, and there have been opportunities, which I'll get into a little bit at the end of the review, to do more than a one, and there has been opportunities when that's kind of a good idea, but it seems like we kind of focus on doing one at a time all the time, again, for the most part. Now the next thing you can do here is you can buy one of these improvements. There's no color specific dice that you need to do. You can just do 4, 5, and 6 generic dice. You basically take this, you put it on your player board. If it awards you a different colored dice, then you'll be able to take that. And these do all kinds of things. I'm not going to get into these in any kind of detail, but a lot of these are really strong. And again, like some of these will have a special action here that allows, this one allows you to like do 2 deliveries. Because normally you can only do 1 delivery on your turn. But that's not on all the dice faces, so this one will just be like 1 generic dice of no color. So even though you get the dice, you still have a little bit of chance there whether or not you're going to roll, the really cool side versus, the generic side. So again, you're going to purchase these. You can have 3 of these at a time. If you want to get a new one, you just discard it back into the card pile here and then replace it. Now the next thing you can do is you can deliver goods. So let's zoom in on these cities here and see a little bit how these goods are going to come out and where they want to go. So when you set up the game, you're going to seed the board here with different goods. So if we take a look at this city here, this has a little white space in the center. That means you're randomly going to get a good out of the bag and then place it here. Now some of these have a fixed color, so you can see that one has a blue, so that one will always start with a blue good. And so you can see that is the inner circle there. That shows you what the city's producing there. Now the outer circle is what it wants. So you can see this has a gray outer circle. So it wants to get this gray good delivered to it. And you can see this one has a red circle that wants the red good delivered to it. Now some of these have a B and a C, so we're going to go ahead and just cover those up here. So that's got a B, so to start the game we're going to cover that up with the B, and then this particular town here, Los Angeles, has 2 C's. We're going to cover those up. These aren't going to be in play at the start of the game. And you can also see we've got A, B, and C contracts. Those contracts aren't going to be in play until we go through the deck. So again, I've got a giant stack here, so you can see these are A contracts here, and then we're going to go through and there's B and then C contracts. Well, in between here, the A and the B's, we've got this end of phase card here, and in between B and C, and then at the bottom of the deck under C, there's an end of phase. And you're going to score some bonus points for goods there, and then you're going to remove whatever phase letter there, and then you're going to seed the board with goods. So if we were going into phase C, we'd pull the C off, and then we'd grab a good out of the bag and seed the board there. And again, the B and C contracts are going to come into play. You're not going to be able to link these up until that phase starts. So back over here, we've laid some track out just as an example. Got some purple track, some track from a white player here. And so what you want to do is you want to deliver goods. Now you can deliver 1 good on your turn. The other actions, you can take as many of them as you want. You could buy 2 contracts, lay some cubes out, whatever the dice let you do, you can do. But you can only deliver 1 good. But normally what you're going to do is for each link, you've got to pay a die. So if I'm the purple player and I wanted to move this red one to this spot, even though this doesn't want red, I'd have to spend a die and do it. So if you want to use somebody else's link, you've got to spend 2 dice. The color doesn't matter. You're just going to have to spend dice to get good from one place to another. When you deliver that, you're going to get 1 point per track that you went over, and then anybody else's track that you went over, they're also going to get a point. So for example here, let's say we wanted to deliver this red good here to this town because he does want a red good. So maybe we're the white player, right? And we spend 1 die and we go over there because you've got to go over at least one of your own tracks at some point during the delivery. You deliver that there, and then the white player would take this and keep this for the end of the round, and then you've got a bunch of these little delivered tokens here. So you're going to mark that off here. So this guy's satisfied here. So we're going to mark that over. We'll put the good that it's producing back on top of it. But no longer can anybody deliver a red good there. He's got what he needs, and then he's good to go. So if we zoom out here, that's a little bit interesting, and that's quite a bit different than some of the other delivered games, especially Steam. You can't just keep pumping goods into the same place. Once it's delivered, it's eaten up. It doesn't need it anymore. So these red goods here, they're going to try to find a home, and those are going to be really far away. Well, if you remember, I said you can deliver, 1 link per dice, and then other players' links for every 2 dice. Well, after a while, you're going to get way more than 6 spaces away that you have to deliver goods for. And that's where this switching station comes in. So during the game, you may spend dice here to move this up here, like so. So what these do is they sort of add to the distance that you can deliver. So if I was here, at a certain point later in the game, I was at +6. I basically have 6 free dice, sort of imaginary dice that I could spend to deliver. So that's the other action. You want to get this, kind of spend this early, so that at the end of the game, as these towns get eaten up and they don't want goods anymore, you're going to be in a good position to be able to make some of those long deliveries. Now, in addition to getting basically 1 point per link, you're also going to get a little bit of a bonus depending on the cargo that it is and how far it travels, as well as the end of the round. So at the end of the round, each good that you have in your possession is going to give you 3 points at the end of phase A, 2 points at the end of phase B, and 1 point at the end of phase C. And you're going to have to discard the discard the goods at the end of each phase. In addition, you've got the yellow and red goods here, and for the life of me I can't remember, but one of these is passengers and the other is something else, and then you've got the gray and the blue goods here, so you've got kind of like industrial, freight goods, and then agricultural type goods. These actually want to go further away. So in the example that I used before, I delivered that good red good 1 space. I'm going to get 3 bonus points for that. Now if I delivered it further away, I'm going to get less bonus points or even no bonus points. So these guys want to take short trips. These guys want to take long trips. So these ones you almost kind of want to wait, in a sense, and deliver them, longer, farther away, because the further away you get more points. Now what's interesting about that is there's going to be towns in the way of that will absorb the good. So just as an example to illustrate that, I've got this gray good here. Maybe I want to deliver it way up top, way up to Seattle or something like that. I can't do that if I'm going to take this route here, because this one's going to intercept it and I'll have to stop there and deliver it there. So that's kind of an interesting little mechanism there, where you sort of want to fill up those ones that you want the bonus points for longer deliveries for early, so that you can then shift them a lot longer towards the end of the game. But you got to also keep the other players in mind and not set them up to you fill in the small one and then they go boom and take the big one out from underneath you. So after you've taken your turn, if you've gotten any dice left that you didn't really use or couldn't use, if you've got some extra dice left, you can take these markers here. And the way that works is, let's say I had these two blue ones left. Basically, you take the number of dice that you have left, they've all got to be the same color, and then you subtract the number by 1. So I've got two blue dice minus 1, and so now I can take and one of these little stockpile markers here. So let's say I had like a blue and a yellow one in my possession. So on my next turn, it's like I have a blue and a yellow facing dice to spend. So that's really cool. So if you kind of have a less than stellar roll, you could try to kind of stockpile these, and there's some bonus cards that work really well with these, and you can build up for sort of a really large turn on your next turn. And that's kind of part of the strategy as well. Like trying to see how much you're kind of shoot your wad a little bit to have optimal turns. Maybe it's better to kind of like slow boat it for a turn, and then next turn you kind of go big. So that's the game. You're going to roll your dice. You're going to take some actions, get contracts. Try to build up these rail links, get points for those. Then get sort of a nice market on certain areas and ship goods, and get your improvement cards and really try to maneuver your dice in a wise way. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the overview. Like I said at the beginning, I was really kind of shaky on this game. The first time we played a couple things wrong, especially that contract stuff that kind of threw it off, where you replenish the contract market. And then it was kind of just like kind of generic. Like it worked. The game kind of would just flow. I was like, yeah, okay, I'm rolling dice. I'm getting bonus dice. This is kind of neat. But there wasn't really a lot of the competition. It wasn't apparent that is so much apparent in a game like Steam, where you really are like, you're jacking your routes into people and you're really trying to ninja those goods and score a lot of points. This one, though, after some time now, and my group, a couple of groups of people, some people don't like it really. It kind of plays too long, and other people really like it. So it does play long because that C phase kind of grinds the game to a halt in some ways, because there's so many tracks and goods, and ooh, should I deliver this good, but then Billy's going to take it, the other good, and things like that. So that last phase especially, you're kind of blow through phase A, because it's, there's not a whole lot going on. So you're like, oh, this is good, I'm kind of moving along, but then it goes, and then it's like, whoa, holy cow, now I'm in brain burn mode. So there's been mixed reaction there, but I will say that what's been interesting and what's kind of sort of revealed itself to me as I've got a chance to play it some more is the way that those contracts come out cannot be undersold. Because the way that the maps are laid out, you've kind of got the A's sort of in a rough area, and then the B's kind of spider out from there, and then the C's kind of bring it all together. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to get a contract that's in a good area where you can get some nice deliveries, maybe a longer route, and so you can score bigger points for the longer tracks. But then some people, there's like the contracts that come out, and you can see those markers on the board where the contracts are represented. They'll kind of coagulate into an area that's been sort of left alone. Well, depending on the way people play too. But it'll kind of go over here, and you go like, ooh, there's like 3 routes all right in that same area, because it's kind of been ignored for a little bit because people are busy doing other things, and that becomes a real tasty area to sort of get a stranglehold on. And some of them be sort of like nice intersections of like heavy traffic areas, like things got to basically go through this spot or this spot. So if you can get in there and then really have sort of a better foothold of the goods there. And so that's really interesting, because that kind of ties into what I was saying about the doing one contract at a time. Now that's better because you're going to get more points if you kind of focus on one, but you're going to be locked into that color, because remember, once you start a contract, only the dice of that color of the route on the board are going to be really important to you. If if you're on a gray and you're rolling yellows, that's no good. But if you have a gray and a yellow contract, then you're flexible. So it's good to kind of focus, because you're going to get more points that way. But then these sort of like opportunistic moments are going to come up. and you're really going to want to be able to get, you know, a nice little kind of monopoly on different regions of the board. That's going to help you with the shipping of the goods. And then there's a whole thing, like I said, of balancing, you know, a bigger turn with a smaller turn. You've got the different abilities, which are really cool, but then you can get those stockpile resources and just have a ton of those things. I mean, it's really possible to get quite a lot of those and just have a massive turn with, like, you know, a giant shipment, or, you know, just laying down a ton of your cubes and things like that. So you can even if you do two contracts at once, you're getting less points, but you've done it very quickly. You know, you've used up less actions and less time. So yeah, and I think there's a lot of room to play here with the map, you know, because the contract cards are generic. You can do different maps and different sort of, I don't know what the characteristics and things like that. Some will be longer or shorter, and different, you know, weird configurations and sort of choke points and things like that. So, you know, the game's definitely grown on me, and it's configurable with multiple maps, and I really like that. You know, like Steam is a huge hit, especially with the family, and then Age of Industry, you know, that's another kind of game that's not really similar, but you got different maps and routes and stuff, and sort of little idiosyncrasies in the rules that you can play with. And I really like that, because certain games, and like Ticket to Ride, you know, you get different maps for that, and because after a while, you know, maybe one of the faults of these Euro games is like, well, the board looks the same every single time, you know, so I know what's going to happen. So that's the cool thing about these train games and these route games is you can, you know, the designers can reinvestigate it later and throw in little maybe tweaks to the rules, so that if you've played the game 5, 6, 7, 8 times, then, you know, it gets kind of samey, and then you throw in a new map. It's like, okay, I can quickly get into this, and then, you know, apply the strategies that I've learned from the previous maps. So yeah, I would take a look at this. This is a game that I was kind of on the fence about, but thankfully some other folks liked it, and I think we're going to keep it. And it has a different enough feel, because I was kind of on the thing of like, okay, well, do I keep Steam and my 5 maps, or do I keep this? And, you know, I've only got 2 maps so far. Like, what's the point? But it really is a very different feel to Steam. And it has that sort of interesting, sort of fuzzy probability kind of thing, or whatever you want to call it, where you're really trying to manage your dice and the resources. And again, like all the stuff I talked about, having the big turns and the various sort of, you know, coagulations of the routes and things that are going to happen on the board. So it's totally different. And it's not just Steam with dice, you know, there's a lot more to it. And I think a lot, you know, it's been really kind of developed. The game's very well developed, and I wish the graphic design was a little bit better, but yeah, I don't know. It's just, it is what it is, and I think it's fine. And again, if you're looking at it and you're looking at it in the video, it's not as bad. But once you get all the tracks and the different colors laid out, and you've got all the goods, and you know, that last phase is going to be a grinder. So anyway, that's Rolling for 8. Thanks.